You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short. And today I'm here with a really special guest, Aubrey Mast. Aubrey is a nutrition, lifestyle, and health promotion professor, holistic health and life coach, herbalist, and personal chef with over 13 years of experience. She specializes in food as medicine, nutrition, herbalism, holistic practices, and personal support. She is finishing her Ph.D. in mind-body medicine and is frequently hiking in the mountains with her family and dogs. Oh my gosh, I want to start hiking, and I'm surrounded by beautiful hills. So why I have not done it yet, I don't know.
There's never been a better time. Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. By the way, Aubrey's one of our writers, and she did really well with her article. So for those of you who missed it, you're going to go back and get it at Best Holistic Life. You can grab any of the old copies anytime. But the first thing we ask all of our guests to do, Aubrey, is to share a story of hope. I personally believe our stories and journeys were given to us for a reason. And every time we share that with the universe or others, like it sends out a heartbeat and it sends out a message of hope to them. So do you want to share your story of hope with us today?
Sure. I'll take you back several years, probably about 12 years ago. And I was working on my bachelor's degree in fine arts and was in a series of, poor relationships that mimicked abusive qualities where I stopped painting. I stopped really talking with friends. I really isolated myself. And during that time, I got really sick and was in and out of hospitals for 6-8 months, saw over 60 practitioners, and all of the practitioners were like, what? There's nothing wrong with you. All of our tests are saying that there's nothing wrong with you. And I got really disgruntled and even more isolated and felt really discouraged, truly. And I had this moment after the last doctor had said, it's just in your head. Whatever is going on with you is just in your head. And I was like, this is just not it. Like, I know that there's a bigger message for me with what's going on. And I came home and recuperated after a surgery, an exploratory surgery, and started to do some serious soul searching. And when I did the soul searching, I realized that I wasn't advocating for myself in my friendships, in my relationships, in my career. I wasn't even tuned into my intuition. I had turned it off entirely. And I was not prioritizing my own self. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't drinking water. I wasn't sleeping well. Like all of these dimensions of wellness, I had basically checked out on. And so I took that as this moment to start realigning my life, if you will. And so I switched my degree field at that point in time to go towards health and wellness promotion. And I started studying with a nutritionist, and it took me one step after another step where I started eating better. I broke up, I was cutting friendships that were not good for me. I was changing up my career. I was journaling. I started painting again. But it didn't happen overnight. Like that story of hope, I think, to your piece, your original introduction, right, is that happens for years. It's one little tidbit, an inch forward, at least for me in my journey, it was over and over and over and over again. And then that's what led me here to today.
Aubrey, I love that you say that it's not a switch that you flip healthy, mental health on, mental health off.
Right.
It literally is a journey. And so for those of you who are striving for perfection, you're headed to the wrong place. There is no place. It doesn't exist.
Nope.
Thank goodness. Right.
Yeah.
And so all we can do is take those little steps to start thriving and doing better in the existence that we are given. Right.
Yeah.
So I love that you say that. And you also talked about incorporating many different things, which is what I think holistic is all about. Absolutely. It's not just changing your diet. It's not just getting more movement. It's not just breathing, not just meditation. There's so many ways for you to take those little bites of that apple to get everything that you need and thrive. I want to talk a little bit about your adapting resiliently. And that's kind of like what you just talked. You had to learn how to adapt. How do people even recognize that they need that, or that they can tap into something like that?
That's a great question. So my book, Adapting Resiliently, walks into the deeper perspective of what I learned throughout the years, which was really that I lost myself. I lost myself in all areas of well-being. And so that process of learning, one, that you're lost is really tedious, and it can be overwhelming because it's very difficult to have that introspection sometimes when we're so used to not sleeping and then just chugging 3 cups of coffee, or being in relationships that are unfulfilling, or going to a job that we hate, or white knuckling life, not moving our body. Like when we get so used to these patterns, right, that keep us from recognizing that we're out of alignment, that we're not really adapting very well. So I think the first place for me has always been with working with clients is to stop and just take a survey and take a deep breath and look. I'm like, okay, financially, do I feel well? Occupationally, am I happy with what I'm doing? Nutritionally, am I feeding myself well? Do I sleep well at all? How much am I sleeping? What is my quality of sleep? What about the relationships and the people that I keep around me? Are they making me feel better about myself, or do they bring me down? What about how much I move my body? Am I proud of it, or do I feel like there's some judgment and resentment and guilt there, right? When we can stop and start doing these, like just this analysis of how am I showing up in this human body in this life at this time, then all of a sudden it can be a door will crack open. And you're right, with holistic modalities, it's not just going to be meditation. It's not going to be movement. It's just not going to be diet. But one of those areas, you're going to be like, I think I could work on that. Maybe you're used to drinking soda all day long and you're like, you know what? I know that's not the best. So maybe I could drink 1 cup of water. That 1 cup of water will create a cascade event for meditation, for breath work, for better relationships. And the water has nothing to do with those things, like if logically, right?
I do love this, because I tell people all the time, when you have a bad habit and that you're doing, maybe it's drinking soda, maybe it's like you're a sugar junkie,
Yeah.
or you smoke, or whatever that looks like to you, that bad habit becomes normal. And so thinking to do anything other than that seems unnormal.
Yeah.
And so getting your brain wrapped around from going from what it feels as normal, like I've done this for 20 years, this is normal, it's a normal part of my life, to a different side. It's hard for your brain to make that connection that there is a better normal.
Yeah.
And recognizing that and making those small changes. Like I didn't get where I'm at. Like it's been an 11-year journey for me. I didn't get with the blink of an eye. I took one step at a time.
Yep.
One thing at a time. I tried new things. If it worked, I kept it. If it didn't work, didn't keep it.
Yep.
So I think that journey is something that's amazing for you. And I tell people this all the time. I don't know what your health issue was, but mine didn't change. My diagnosis never changed. And yet I've been thriving for the last 11 years, thriving in that diagnosis. So you can thrive in any space that you're in. And I know that you might be in a dark space where you don't see that happening, but tapping in, like she just said, and adapting to your resilience, what can work for you can really change that. So what kind of clients come to work with you?
I have clients that are across the spectrum. So I have clients that are coming to me because they want to change their diet. They feel unhealthy in their body for varying reasons, right? They may be working with a new diagnosis and they don't know how to eat for that diagnosis, or they are working with new foods, allergies and food sensitivities, and they don't know how to prepare the food. So I have these like nutritional wellness clients. And what I've found over working with clients for the last 15 years is that it's never just about food, ever. That we can start talking about changing our diet, but there's a mental and emotional component to why we eat what we eat. And so most of my clients are working with me to use food as the door that we're opening up. And then we're walking through there to talk about mental health, emotional health, and lifestyle transformation. I have a lot of clients that come to me more around the intuitive piece, around, hey, how do I reconnect with my intuition? How do I inspire creativity in my life so that I can feel creative in the kitchen, so I'm eating better, but also so I can change up that that rut we get into mentally and emotionally, where we keep responding or we keep thinking in the same ways that we always have, because it's a conditioned pattern. So most of my clients are wanting to address one or multiple areas of their life, but in addressing multiple areas of our lives, we're talking about one of these really small steps and starting there. And then I'm just walking with them as they are building each of those steps forward.
Well, one of the things that really stood out for me in your bio was something that honestly I didn't learn until I was in my 50s, that food is medicine. You use food as medicine. It was always meant to give our body strength, nutrition, help with, our immune system. It was there to get our bodies strong and to move forward. And then became more of an emotional eating. And then it became even bigger than that, where we just gorge ourselves to feel something in there. And so when you're talking about using food as medicine, maybe people don't understand what that really means. I didn't until I was 51 years old and my stomach was completely removed, that I understood the value of getting nutrients into my body. And that's what food was really for.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, food as medicine is a philosophy that's based upon Hippocrates' notion, where let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food, which should be that the first place that we're going to helping our bodies heal is what's happening in our kitchen. The reality is that most of us are eating nutrient depleted foods for varying reasons, right? And so when I help clients incorporate food as medicine, we're starting to look at using medicinal mushrooms, lots of herbs, lots of spices, eating a high phytochemical rich diet, which, if your listeners don't know what that means, it means eating lots of color compounds, because when we talk about what causes health or what causes illness, we're really looking at mitochondrial function, what's happening in our cells. And if our cells can't absorb nutrients, then they will manifest forward in illness. And so what we know about in nutrition research, the way that we change how our cells are operating is by giving them these phytochemicals, this really rich color compounds to change how the cells function. And that only happens through fruits and vegetables, herbs, spices, and funguses. And so we will work with, okay, let's say you have arthritis. Okay, well, increasing the amount of capsaicin or heat in the body is really great for reducing arthritic pain in the body, right? And so we will turn towards lots of cayenne peppers and things like that. But we're really using food as the first and foremost place to help with mental health, emotional health, and physical health. And then we supplement from there with medicinals if we need to, and pharmaceuticals if we have to.
By the way, for me to figure this out, I had to keep a journal of what I ate. And literally it was after I ate. So like 30 minutes after I ate, I would write how I felt.
Yeah.
And if I felt like sluggish, bloated, like I feel like it was poisoning me. Now looking back, I feel like after I ate, I felt like it was poisoned.
Right.
And then when I would eat something that my body responded very well to, I felt energy. I felt like hydrated. I didn't have that bloaty feeling. I wasn't tired.
Yeah.
And when I realized like there is really a correlation to what we eat and how we feel, like that was crazy eye opener again in my 50s.
Yeah, completely. And it's so tricky too, because some of the foods that we eat, it can take us up to 48 to 72 hours to really process them. So to your point about the journaling, it's so essential, because if you're tracking of like, oh, I ate this and the next morning I woke up feeling kind of down and out, was really exhausted, you may not think it has anything to do with what you ate the day before, but there is a correlation, and you can't see that very easily until you are mapping to the degree that you're talking about. And it's such an empowering tool when you start going, oh, I fed myself this, and then look, I have evidence of what happened immediately after and days after.
Well, Aubrey, since I have you on the show, and because I think you're a genius in this area, I want to talk about all these diets people are going on.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to say is, you guys, the word diet literally means what we put in our mouth. It doesn't mean like keto or weight loss or weight gain or muscle building. It literally just means what we put in our mouth. That's what the word means. But it's changed over to this commercializing so that they can sell you specific products for whatever your specific heart desires, right? And it's really all about just what you eat. So when you're going on these diets, unless you have a food sensitivity, when you're going on, like, I'm going to do the alternate fasting. Well, you know what? We all alternate fast. We don't eat when we're sleeping. So we have a fasting period, right? It seems normal, but then people go to the extremes with it. And then there's the keto diet or the no gluten diet. And by the way, I don't eat gluten, and it's because I feel better when I don't. That doesn't mean every once in a while I'm like, oh, I'll die if I have it. I will have a little teeny bit of it, but I know that it needs to be limited in my lifestyle because I have arthritis in my hands. It flares it up. It makes me feel bloated. Those are my personal reasons. But I think the only diet I like is an elimination diet, only because you get to start introducing things back slowly to see how your body reacts. But you, as an expert, I am no expert in this. I'm just an expert of surviving with no stomach and still giving my body nutrients. But how would you suggest people start looking at those fad diets, which are none of them are something you can sustain for a long time? They're just not. They're not meant to be. They're meant to be a quick Band-Aid. But what happens, it puts us in this yo-yo effect, and we succeed and fail instead of balancing out with a beautiful habit that works for us all the time. I don't know, Aubrey, do you ever have those friends who are super skinny and you're struggling to lose that 10 pounds you couldn't lose? And they're like, oh, I eat whatever I want. And you know why? Because they have healthy habits. They've balanced out their life. They know what works for their body. And so they feel like they can eat whatever they want without really thinking about it because they've created that beautiful habit plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back to my training around holistic medicine and mind-body medicine and lifestyle medicine. I don't believe in quick fixes. I don't believe in, okay, I have a headache, let's pop Tylenol because it's going to get rid of the headache. I believe in going, oh, I have a headache because I haven't slept. I didn't drink any water today. I actually haven't eaten in the last 4 hours. Same thing with diets. I think that they actually need to be thrown out the window. And I believe in individualized nutrition. And so individualized nutrition means, what does my body as a person need? Because I metabolize food differently than how you metabolize food. And that goes for absolutely everybody. And so these quick fixes, the diet trends, are fads for a reason. You will drop weight very quickly, but it is not sustainable and it's not based upon lifestyle changes. And so you're not getting to the root cause, which is really what holistic medicine teaches us, is how do I address the root cause? Well, there could be an emotional component. There could be a mental component. There could be a lack of nutrients coming in, low density nutrients coming in. And so I think it's really important to, one, figure out your body, listen to your body. How do I feel when I eat this? What is my long-term goal? Why do I want to lose this weight? Is it because I want to feel better, or is it because I want to move my body more? Okay, so then we have a goal to move towards, right? Your point around having lifestyle behaviors in place is truly how we see that weight can be maintained very easily. And it relates to how much water we're consuming, but it also relates to how much fiber we're consuming and where those phytochemicals coming into our diet at. So this is where I think it helps to work with somebody, whether it's a coach or a nutritionist, to help you figure out, okay, well, how does my body feel best? And you don't have to work with somebody. You can do it on your own, just like you did with your journaling, but paying attention to, how does my body feel best after I eat this, 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 and this.
Well, Aubrey, I worked with somebody. It took a village literally to keep me alive. And I knew to ask for help. But what I didn't understand, which I'm not sure that anyone else here knows, but when your diet correlates with a lot of your health issues,
completely,
a lot of them, just like not sleeping correlates with a lot of health issues that are coming up from you. And when you start to get that on track, it's shocking. For me, I used to get migraines all the time, and I didn't know it was because I was dehydrated. So now when my head starts hurting, I immediately go get a glass of water and get that down. I don't rapidly get it down, but I drink a glass of water and I notice that the headache goes away. So there's so many things connected to hydration, diet, sleep that are causing these things that they're saying are in your head. They're real. Those symptoms are real. There's something going on, but it could be your body screaming intuitively, telling you something needs to change. So I love that you do that. If somebody comes and works with you, I'm guessing the very first thing you do is a very detailed intake to find out what their unique nutritional needs are and how that looks for them. But what can they expect when they come to work with you?
One, I think they can expect a lot of support and a lot of intuitive appreciation. I think our society and the way of life has brought us to turn off our barometers of symptoms. My body is telling me this. The reason I'm thinking these things is because of this, right? Our intuition has gotten quieted.
So we had a little glitch, but we were just talking about your body intuitively connecting to like the unique foods that you're using.
Yeah. Yeah. And so part of working together is one, having the support to start that investigation, because I really believe, like, as we've talked about already, that it's a journey. And so when you have this journey that you're discovering your health, discovering your wellness, discovering what optimal vitality means to you, you need a team. You need people in your corner being very supportive and very introspective on what is coming up for you as you are moving through this journey, and a place where it's safe for you to bounce off of, hey, I want to try to cook my own beans, but I don't know how to do that. Could you help me figure that out? Or, hey, I'm really curious about deep breathing meditation and guided imagery meditation. Where do I go? It can be really helpful to have somebody holding your hand in that manner and being like, you got this, especially when we have gotten so conditioned to believing that we're not getting these bigger messages from our bodies and from our intuitive knowing.
I love it. I say this all the time. We are given that intuitive insight to our bodies. Like, for instance, how many times have you gone to the doctor and have it's all in your head, but you go out into your car and intuitively everything is firing off something more. It's something more.
Yeah.
And we're given that for a reason. So you might get an intuitive message and you're like, I don't have time. It's not that big a deal. That's probably not what's happening. And then pretty soon your body starts giving you symptoms, right?
Yeah.
And then the symptoms become bigger until you have no choice but to address it. So if you just start tapping into that intuitiveness that's giving you that little, maybe I shouldn't eat this anymore. Maybe I shouldn't drink wine anymore. Like, I know I love wine. We have a wine room with 2,000 bottles, but I can't drink it very often. It makes me sick. Yeah. And so I know when I do drink it, I'm going to suffer the price. But if my husband's opening a very expensive bottle, I'm trying it. So I know there's a price to pay. But I listen to my body now when I eat things. Like, I know that if I eat gluten, going to have problems with my hands for at least a week to reverse those effects. So it's like, I listen, but sometimes I say, okay, I heard, but I'm still going to do this. Right. But I think tapping into our intuitiveness, it's so powerful for us. Like, I always tell my doctor, who's been living here? I've been living here since birth. Yeah. I know more than you. So I don't care if my blood work says, okay, something's not right.
That's right. And then that's the learning how to be our own advocates. And that's powerful work, right? Because then we're representing our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual selves at the rawness of their essence, of their vulnerability. And that is something that nobody can take away from us, that nothing can take away from us, right? And that is some of the most impactful and powerful work that I've ever worked with clients on, is like that ability to cultivate self-efficacy, self-actualization, where we are able to stand and go, you know what? Intuitively, I know this about myself, and nobody else can change that knowing, because it's my knowing. And that's where the key to change happens.
I love it. Where can people connect with you, Aubrey?
I am on adaptingresiliently.com. I have Instagram as well, Adapting Resiliently or Aubrey Mast. And I'm also on Facebook.
Well, we're definitely going to put all of her connections in the show notes. So for those of you driving, don't write it down. You can just go to the show notes and grab it and connect with her. If you have any questions, please reach out to her in a DM. Just say you heard her on the podcast and that you want to know more. Or if you want to grab any of her book or any of her programs, definitely, I highly recommend it, because your diet is the key, like the first step you should be taking, even if it's just removing a few bad things that are causing you to not feel so great. So I wish you guys all health and wellness. And Aubrey, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited that you were here today.
Thank you for the honor.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.